Hey, this is Passy from Passy's World of ICT, the guy with the white hat, with another Microsoft Access Database lesson for the Southern Dog Club. And this time we're looking at the drop-down list combo box, which will enable easier data entry for certain fields in there. So remember, I'm a bit of a slow talker, so you need to increase the speed of this video when you watch it. Just go to the YouTube player bar here and click on that tools cog. Go to playback speed, click on that arrow and use like 1.5 or 1.75 and you'll find the video flows a lot better. And if you're finding the videos long and you need to take a break at certain stages, well, we have a timeline index in the description for the video and you can just stop at a certain point and then click on these blue numbers here and the video will automatically resume at 16 minutes 12, for example there. All right, so there are two things to help you out. So what are drop-down lists? We made the forms in the last lesson. We made a members dogs form where we could enter the details for people's dogs. And we had a couple of fields on here. Oh, sorry, I'll just go back. We had a couple of fields on here, the gender and the desexed values, whether it was male or female or yes, no. And they're the ones we're going to actually work on in this lesson. All right, so what we can do with this, where it's this gender is female, people have to type it in at the moment and they might get it wrong and they might type girl instead, like it's a girl dog. So what we're going to do is they could type girl or lady or boy. If they're doing a boy dog, they could say, rather than say male, which is what we want them to say, they could say boy or man or anything they like, really, they can type into that field. So we're going to stop that from happening and we want to only allow the values of male and female to be entered. Now we already have a validation rule in place actually, which will give an error if they don't type male or female, but we can make it better than that because there's a limited number of options. There's only two in this case, male and female. It's much better to use a drop-down list combo box for the field rather than having the validation rule. And we can leave the validation rule there and you'll find out later on that the combo box drop-down list will just kind of replace it anyway. And we just wanted to pick and click either male or female from the list. All right, so using a pick and click drop-down list for the gender of the dog solves all that problem of variable entry, because what happens is on this gender, they click this little down arrow on the drop-down list combo box we've put there, and it just gives them male or female, and they have to pick or click one of those two, and there are no other options for them to pick. Okay, and in Access, this pick and click list box, that's called a combo box. So that's what we're doing here. We're doing the combo box in Access in this lesson. Okay, now these pick and click lists, they're useful for fields wherever we've got a small number of limited possibilities. So gender, male or female, if you had accommodation type on a form and you wanted them to be able to pick and click budget, basic or luxury, or budget standard or luxury. Tour transport, they could be picking bus, train or plane. Hospital, you could pick public or private. Add to the email list, yes or no, and so on. So if you've just got a limited list, if you were doing addresses and had states in Australia like Vic, New South Wales, Queensland, you could put that into a drop-down list, all right? So Southern Dog Club, what we need for our project is we're going to have the gender is male or female on our drop-down list as we just saw. And then we're also going to do another field, the desex field, because that has to be yes or no. So we'll just have a drop-down list for that where they can just pick yes or no. All right, so in this training lesson, we'll do the following. We'll create pick and click drop-down list for the gender, for picking male or female, and we'll make a pick and click drop-down list combo box for the desexed, so they can pick yes or no for that. And these combo box drop-down lists will assist in the entry of data because they save typing time. People can just pick and click instead of having to type it in, with the risk that they might type it wrong and make a mistake or not understand what exactly needs to go into that field. All right, so these are very handy. Whenever you can use them on input forms, you should make use of these drop-down lists. All right, now to start this training, you'll need to have that database from when you finish the forms lesson. So if you completely finish the forms lesson and you've got a members form and a dogs form that's all fully complete, you can use that for this lesson. Or you can do this as a one-off isolated lesson if you want, and just get the downloads for the lesson, which you should get in any case because it's got the build instructions as a PDF and a finished database so you can check if yours isn't working, what you need in it. But you get the Combo Box Start database, okay, which is going to have all the forms in it and all the work in our course up to this lesson. And that only costs like, if you're a teacher instructor, that's only going to cost you about $3 US to get a license for 30 students to use it. And if you're just a student wanting to get it, I think it's only like a couple of dollars, all right, about $1.90 or something like that. All right, so go to the description for the video and there'll be a link there where you can click to go and get downloads. All right, if you're a student, check with your teacher because they might have the downloads for you already. So don't go getting them until you first checked with your teacher and see if they have those downloads to give you, especially my students, because I'll give you the downloads. You don't have to go to that website and get them yourself. All right, now there's 4 steps to make your drop-down list. It's actually quite easy, but nothing's easy the first time you do it, all right? But after you've done these a couple of times, you'll see, oh, okay, that's really simple. There's not that much to it. So step 1 is we have to actually create a mini table that has the list values in it. So if we want to have budget, standard, and luxury, we've got to make a little table that just has some data in it that says budget, luxury, and standard. So we've got to make a little data table or a reference table for the drop-down list. Then in design view on the form, that box that you want to change to be a list instead, we've got to change that into a combo box type of field because at the moment it's just a normal text box field. So it's just a couple of clicks to change it into combo box, but you've got to know what to click. And then we set some properties. So we need to set the row source of that combo box we made so that it can link up or connect to this table that we made in step 1. And then we also need to just do a setting limit to list in the properties so that people can't type over what's in that box. They have to pick one of the items from the drop-down list. They're limited to picking from that list. So they're the 4 steps, and this might take a while, but this is how we go. All right, so step 1, we're making that reference table. So this is a one column table that has the list values typed into it. So we go create table, which we've done before, and you don't have to be clicked on any particular thing, but just create table. And then once we've created the table, we then go into design view. So if it's not in design view, click on design view and go view and design view, okay? And it'll ask you to save the table. Save the table as gender values. That's the name for the table. All right, so you go create table. It'll open up a table. Then you need to change the design view, or when it asks you to save the table, just call the table gender values. All right, so gender values is what we're saving it as, and say okay on that. Alrighty, so design view will take us into where we can set up the field names. Now, a lot of people get this mixed up, and in here they put male and female, right? That's wrong. What you have to have is a name for the field, and then what we're talking about with this field is gender. All right, so we're just going to call the field gender, and Access will have had this as ID and auto number because that's the default when Access makes a new table. So where it said ID here, you need to type gender over the top. You need to put the type, it'll have auto number as the type, so make sure you use this drop-down list and change that to short text for the type. And the other thing you need to do is Access makes the field size down the bottom here like 255, which is way too big. We only need 6 because the biggest word for gender is female, F-E-M-A-L-E, which is 6 letters long. So make sure that's a 6 down here. And that's all of our design view work done. So the gender values, we need to use a male and female, but do not type them in here. A big mistake is people open up the table, then it's in design view and they put male and female in here, and then nothing works, all right? In here, we're just always putting just one field, and for this one, it's called gender. We're now going to flip over to data sheet view, and that's where we enter the male and female. All right, so let's do that. So click the icon and change to datasheet view. So just go view and into datasheet view, and you'll have this field named gender. And in here we can type what are the different values of gender we want to use. And we only want to use male and female, all right? So in here, right where that's blank, you just type in female and male. Or do it the other way around, it doesn't matter. As long as you've just got female and male on those two rows, don't type anything in here, that's just an empty column. So gender, the possibilities are female and male. We type them in and then hit this save icon up the top left-hand corner of your screen to save that little table. And that's our little reference table made. So step 1 is done. All right, so we just had one field in design view, flipped over to datasheet view and put in the values female and male. All right, now we've got to change the field into a combo box. All right, so the gender field on that form, the dogs form, needs to be changed from a normal text field into a combo box. So make sure here that you've got that little triangle, click on that and make sure it's on all access objects so it's showing all of your objects. That way it'll show the tables, the queries and the forms. And the form we want is member dogs form, all right? So double click on member dogs down here in the forms and that should open up the form which we made in the last lesson, or the form which comes with the downloads file if you've got the start database and you're using that. And here is a record, and we're going to be looking at the gender field in that. All right, so we need to change to layout view. So to change to layout view, we just go down the bottom right-hand corner of access and click that one there. That'll get you into layout view. And this one we're going to change is gender. So where it's got female here, click in that box so it's highlighted in orange. This is the one we're going to change. And what we have to do with that text box to change it is, when it's highlighted in orange after you've clicked on it, you right click with your mouse and there'll be all these options, and you need to go down to the change to option, and then from the change to list pick combo box. Okay, so we're clicking on that to get it in orange, then we're right clicking our mouse from the list, going change to, clicking this arrow and doing combo box is what we want to change it to. Now, when you do that, what will happen is a drop down arrow appears, but if you try changing this back to form view now and having a look at it, nothing will drop down because we haven't linked this up to the table yet we made in step 1. But step 2 is completed. That was making a combo box. So see how it's not a plain normal text box here with data in it. It's now a box that has an arrow for drop-down lists, and that's called a combo box in Access. All right, so we're now ready to do the third step, is where we're going to connect that combo box up to the table. So make sure that's just left like it is, selected in orange, or click on it so it's got the orange around it. It needs to be selected when we do this next step. All right, now the third main step is linking the combo box to the table. So you have to go onto the Design tab and click on the Property Sheet, because we need to bring up the Property Sheet to do this. Now, when the property sheet comes up, usually we'd be on this first tab, the Format tab, but for this one we need to change to Data tab. So click on this second tab and get all of these options. Now, a common mistake is people jump in and change control source. What that is that's where the data is coming from out of the database table. Do not change that. You've got to go to the second one, which is row source, all right? A common mistake is people go to control source. Make sure on this second one, row source, click in this box and an down arrow, a drop down list arrow actually should appear. So click in this box here and get that drop down list arrow, click on it, and you will actually get a drop down list. And what it'll do is it will give you all of these tables and queries that are in your database. Now, the one we made to store the male and female values, remember we saved that as gender values, so that's the one we need. That's how we connect this field up to the table. So on row source, click the down arrow and then click on gender values, and that's going to link our field on the form up to the table. And that's step 3 completed, and we've only got one more step to do. All right, so we're still in the property sheet, we're still on the Data tab, and you can see here we did our row source and got it to gender values. We're just doing one more thing, this limit to list, all right? So you've got to stay on that Data tab, and on limit to list, that needs to be set to yes, okay? And when you limit it to the list, that means they can only pick things from the drop-down list, and they can't cannot go into that field and type their own values. All right, so limit to list has to be turned on to say yes. All right, now we're now ready to actually have a look at this drop-down list in action, see how it works. So in the view, we don't need to be in layout view anymore because we've finished working on the table. We need to actually go view form view to get into the form view, which is how you browse records and enter data. And if you don't want to do it up the top here with view form view, remember down the bottom right-hand corner, you can just click on this first one, which will take you into form view. All right, now just about those view modes, before we have a look at our drop-down list, the suspense is killing me. We've got to see the drop-down list. Yeah, I know, okay. So we were in layout view. That's what we do our kind of work in. This one, form view, we've just gone into that because that's how we check things out and we can enter data and browse records. This last one, design view, we don't use that often. We did use it for one thing, I think, in the forms lesson, but we try and steer clear of this in the beginner course that we're doing because that's kind of more advanced. There is stuff on design view in our Bargain Barn advanced course. That's our other course on our YouTube channel. But for this one, the Dog Club, we're just mainly sticking to layout view and to form view. Now, also you can do it here. You can go view, form view, layout view, the same three from that view icon on the ribbon up the top if you want to. So it's sort of top left-hand corner or bottom right-hand corner. Take your pick, and that's how you change modes. And make sure you're in form view. And finally, we can see it. So we go to gender and we click that little arrow that's there, and we'll actually see the two things from our table. We can pick and click female or male, all right? So you can check that out and see that it's working. And that is our drop-down combo box list for gender completely finished. And we're done. So we need to do some testing. So try and type in a value that's not male or female. So if you try and type in girl here, see, because we set that limit to list yes, it's going to say the text you entered isn't an item in the list. Select an item from the list or enter text that matches one of those listed items. So it's only going to let us do male or female in here. It won't let us type our own values. We can try type our own values, but because we set limit to list yes in that fourth step, it won't accept any other values except male and female, which is easiest to get from the pick and click list. So navigate through a few other records. So remember the navigation bar's down here, and you can use this right arrowhead to flick through a few more records and just click on them and see that, you know, you're getting male, female in there, and a drop-down list isn't just working on this first record, that it works on all the records. And that's it. So remember, for viewing the form records, if you've forgotten how to do this, this was the rewind one that takes you all the way back to the first record. That was the to go back one record. This one's to go forward one record, and this one's to go right to the very end. All right, now the sunshine symbol is to make a new record, but we're going to be doing that later in the lesson, right near the very end. For the moment, you only need the, really this one, go back one record and go forward one record, and you can just flick through all of the dog records and check out that they all have a drop-down list for male and female. Now, the other drop-down list is for desexed, all right? So the gender list is finished and tested, so save the form, but do not close it, leave it open. So just save it, so it's going to save the work you've done so far with that save button up the top left-hand corner. So now we're going to create the combo box for the desexed field on the form. Now the desexed combo box will give us the options of yes or no. Okay, so this one's not male or female. When this one's finished, you'll have an arrow just like you did with gender. And when you click on the arrow, the two options you can pick are yes, or you can pick no, one of these. And whatever you click down here will automatically go into the box. So it saves typing time, saves accidental typo errors. These are really good. If you've got a limited selection of items that can be put in there, it's all good. All right, so we've got to go through those same 4 steps to do this. So you've got to create your desexed values table, and in that table you'll need to have yes and no are the 2 values that you want to have in this drop-down list. Then you're going to have to change this to a combo box. Remember, in layout view we right-clicked on this and made it change to combo box. So I've got that arrow in it. Then we need to link that arrow up to the table we've made in step 1. And finally, we need to set limit to list. Just set that up, make sure in the properties that that's yes, and they're the 4 steps and you're done. All right, so we'll just help you get started with the first step. So remember those reference tables of what the drop-down list values are. You only have one field, okay, in design view, and then you put the different values that are going to happen do that in datasheet view. All right, so we're going to do design view first to make one field, then we put our data in datasheet view. Okay, so we'll do create table, and it'll come up with this, and we'll be in design view, and we'll type one field, which is just called dsext. All right, don't put yes and don't put no in here. Just one short text type field. So this will come up as ID, auto number. So you know we've got to backspace over that and put dsext, change the auto number with this arrow here. So it's short text, and make sure that's a 3 because yes is 3 long. So we don't really need 255 characters for this. We just need 3. So just put a size of 3 in there. Then you can go view and change over to datasheet view. And in datasheet view, under that dsext column, that's where you put the values that you want in the drop-down list, the yes and the no. All right, so they go here. And that's just a blank one. Just leave that. Don't type anything in there or do anything. You just have your yes and your no, and Access automatically goes down to the next one. But we're done at that stage. So just click that Save button up the top left-hand corner and save that table as dsext values. That's what we're going to call that table. All right. Then you should be able to do the other steps exactly the same way as we did the gender combo box, and then have one for dsext. All right. So you've got to do steps 2, 3, and 4 yourself. You can use the timeline index down in the video description to go back and see how to do step 3. If you forgot how to do step 3, it'll be there in the timeline list, and you can find it and go back and watch that for the gender and do the same thing for dsext. And when you're finished, you should be able to click that arrow and have yes or no and be able to click on them, and that value will go into your field, drop down list style. All right, so now we're going to finish up the lesson by actually adding in some member data and checking out whether those drop-down list boxes actually capture the data okay. So if you want to take a break in the video, because it's been going for 25 minutes, so now's a good time to take a break if you need one, and then come back and just do this last thing that we need to do. All right, welcome back. So in this last thing, we're just going to add a new member. So this will provide us with an opportunity to use those 2 combo boxes and confirm that when we pick and click that data and save the record, that the data we picked and clicked actually makes its way all the way to the dogs table and gets saved into the database permanently. So our member is Andy Akito. So that's who we're going to need to add into the members table, and she's 27 Bay Street, Brighton, with those details. So we're going to have to do the members table entry first because we need to have a member ID value to put against the dogs. Then we'll do the first dog, Nikita, the beautiful little husky puppy there. And then we're going to do her other dog, Dido, the Jack Russell, a jumping Jack Russell that she's had for a while. Okay, so she's got 2 dogs, one that's a bit older, she's had that one a while. This one's he's a brand new little puppy, so he's cute and small, but he'll grow to be so big. All right, enough about dogs. It's not all about dogs. Where's Murphy? He's off somewhere. Hopefully he's asleep and not destroying anything. First, we add the new member record by clicking the sunshine symbol in the bottom left-hand corner of the form. Now, this symbol's hard to find. We talked about this in the forms lesson. So that's information we've got to get entered onto the form. Here's our blank form. Now, to get the blank form so we can type into some blank boxes, you've got to click just here, that last thing after the right-hand arrow. I've tried to enlarge it here. There's the right-hand arrow. Then there's this tiny little sunshine symbol, which is to get a new blank record, okay? So you've got to click on that little sunshine, that star, orange star symbol just in there. And that'll give you a whole bunch of blank boxes to type in. And what we've done is we've just taken all this information from here and we've actually typed it into those blank boxes. Now for her member ID code, remember you take the first 5 letters of the last name. Now her name is 12345, Akito. So that's actually an O there. See how it's a little bit wider if you look really close. So we've put Akito and then we've done 001 because she's the first Akito in this database. There's no other Akitos yet. So that's her member ID code, Akito 001. That's the code we'll be using in a little while when we do the dogs form. So it's important we remember what that was. Maybe write that down on a piece of paper somewhere. Then we just put in her details. Make sure you click the save button up the top left-hand corner to save this record into the database. And now we can do her dogs. So the first one's Nikita, that beautiful Siberian Husky puppy. And so what we've done here is we've got all this information here. And this information, by the way, came from the analysis document for the Dog Club project. Okay, so with the downloads, there will be this full analysis document, which we've talked about in other lessons, and we actually went through in the first lesson. And these are all the members and their dogs. And we've actually added them all in, I think. Not sure whether, I think we've done Alicia McDonald. Nikki New, I remember we did last lesson. So I think Andy Akito is going to actually be the last member we need to add into this little prototype database we're doing. The real one, of course, will have all of the members and dogs in the club. And then this was all the information telling you basically what you had to do. So we've done all those queries, we've done all the reports, and we're still to get to those tasks because we're still working on the forms, all right? So we're still on the forms at the moment. Okay, so that document comes with the downloads for this lesson. All right, now we type in all of this information here and we use our drop-down list to pick and click female and to pick and click no here because it said D-sex no and it said the dog gender is F, so that's female. Now, to type in this information about the member, you remember in the forms lesson we went through this, because it's a relational database and we've saved that member record, all you have to do is type in the member ID code, Akito, remember that's the letter O, and then 001, and you just type that into that box and press enter, and then Access goes off and gets this information for you from the members table. So you don't have to type in any of those 4 fields, last name, first name, email address, phone number, because as soon as you type that in and press enter, Access through the relational database will go and get that for you. So remember, Access automatically fills those in. Do not type them in yourselves. Type in the member ID code up here, press enter and make Access go and get them. These ones here, you do have to type in. These 2 you can use with the new pick and click combo box lists that we made. All right, and make sure you save this record. So hit that save icon up the top left-hand corner before you go to do the Sunshine again to make a new record to do her other dog. All right, so we make a new blank record using the Sunshine symbol. We type things in, but when we type in this registration number, when we go to save the record, there's a problem and we get this error. The changes you requested to the table weren't successful because of duplicate values. There is a thing where this rego number here of the Jack Russell dog is actually the same as the registration number of the Siberian Husky. So obviously when we got information from Andy, we messed something up and we wrote down the same registration number twice. Registration number is supposed to be a unique identifier for the dog. So if the dog's lost somewhere, they can use that little number on its tag or code to find it, to locate the owner. So we can't have 2 dogs with the same number. And our database has actually called us out on that as an error. So we just need to fix this. Now the way we'll fix it is we'll have to talk to Andy and find out what the real number is. But just for today's lesson, we're just going to change that into 57 instead of 56. So if we just go up here and change that into a 7, then we'll find that we're able to save the record quite okay because it won't have the same rego number as the Siberian Husky. So little Jack Russell, jumping Jack Russell, he needs to be 3457. Put a 7 there for his number. Then you'll be able to save him and that's all done. So I think now we can check the table. So we save those records and you can see in the members table, we did it all in the members form, but it has been written permanently to get saved into the database and be there forever. Tomorrow, the next day, and whenever we open up and use the database, Andy Akito is in there. So that's all worked. And it's done her 2 dogs, the Siberian Husky Nikita and the Jumpin' Jack Russell Dido or Dido. Okay, and notice that the checkbox where we did the combo box and we had to pick and click values, that must have worked fine because they've all ended up in the table. They've both ended up female as they should be, and they've both ended up no. So all that picking and clicking must have worked, and it's also written data to the table, just like when we type data on a form and it gets saved to the table, as long as you remember to click that top left-hand save button. All right, so that's it. That's all looking really good. And we finished the lesson and we can save the database. So remember, up the top, you need to find that file right up the top sort of left-hand corner-ish of your page and do save as when this special box opens up. Save as, and it needs to be just this top left-hand corner one, and access database ACCDB, and then click save as, but it's not over yet because you have to navigate to where your folder's located, where you're going to save that to. So we've just got a folder set up, L6 drop-down list for lesson 6 drop-down list. So in there you can see we've got our start database and one we were working on. So we're going to call this SDC combo boxes finished because it's now finished, and make sure it stays as .accdb, so it's an access database, and make sure the type here is access database. Then just click save and you should be good. Now, if access says replace the current database, just say yes to that and right over the top of the one that was there if you have been saving as you went along, and that should all be good, and we've got our work saved. So our database tables now should look like this. So at the end of the lesson, if you open up the members table by double clicking it and look at it in Access, it should have those members in it. And if you double click the members dogs table, it should have these dogs in it. And that actually completes the entry of all the members and dogs. Because yes, we have got Cindy the Dachshund for a leash. Yes, so just talking to myself there. So yes, we have got all the dogs and members for this. Remember, we're just having a little small prototype database we can demonstrate to Anita to see if we can get the job building the whole big database, as long as she likes this one. Hopefully she'll say yes, and then we can build the big one. So I think we're getting a long way through our course now. Let's review what we've done so far. We've created the database and tables. So that was the first lesson we did. Then we made the input validation rules to make sure good data gets typed into the database. We had some queries to get some particular information out of the database without having to look at the whole table. We could just look at certain fields which we'd picked out in query design. And then we turned these queries here into nice formatted reports, which could be made into PDFs and emailed or even printed out on white sheets of paper. All right, so we did that one next. Then we went and did our screen forms. That was a pretty long lesson, and we checked out the input masks on them worked. I think we had to put a format on the last name to make sure that it was in capital letters, but we did all that work, and we've just done drop-down lists on the forms, which assist data entry and minimize mistakes. They get rid of typos because they have to pick male or female. They can't type it themselves and put MALEE with a typo. And where are we going to next? Finish the forms off. We need to add member and dog images onto the forms. So that'll be the next lesson. Then the forms are all finished, and actually all of our database functions are finished. And after that, we just need to pull them all together on a main menu for the database. And the last thing is to make a fancy opening flash screen for the final finished application. So we're getting very close to the end now. So this is great. And remember the lessons and where you click to get downloads and all that. If you go to Passie's World of ICT website, MS Access SDC, Southern Dog Club, that's the beginner's course that we're doing, all right? If you want to do a more advanced course and like look at design view and things like that, this MS Access for the Bargain Barn is one for that's more advanced. But if you're just beginning access and need to know the basics, we suggest doing this one, sticking with the Southern Dog Club till you finish that. And then if you need more, you can go to the other course as well. So give this video a big thumbs up like, because we've done drop-down list combo boxes, and make sure you subscribe to our channel so you find out when that next lesson comes out about adding images onto the forms, and then we'll have our Dog Club forms finished. So subscribe to our channel and join the, I think it's nearly 1,500 happy subscribers that we have at the moment, and we'll see you in the next lesson.